Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now I'm gonna continue the series that I started a lot of weeks ago, where I'm gonna address different muscle groups that tend to be very weak because of our daily position, our posture, and because of the fact that these muscles tend to be quite small and tend to be overlooked, so you're not gonna be training them properly. They tend to be weak, and because of that, problems may start arising in the middle age, or if you're an athlete and you perform a mat movement, you may have these problems earlier. So in the first episode, I talked about the core and how important the core stability is, so the deep muscles in our core. Second thing, I talked about the scapular stability and why strengthening the muscles that are gonna stabilize the scapulas, it's very important. And now in this third episode, I'm gonna talk about a very famous group of muscles that are the glutes. And especially female athletes or female girls that wanna have a big booty, they gonna try to do a lot of different exercises and train their glutes. Now 98% of people are actually doing the exercises, the correct exercises, but they're doing them wrong. And that's the reason why, if you try to measure the real strength of the glutes, is actually very weak. And now this group of muscle is made by three main muscles. The gluteus maximus, that is one of the largest muscles in our whole body, and it's the very huge and big muscle that you can find on your buttocks, right? Then there is the gluteus medius, that it's a smaller muscle, and that is the main muscle that is gonna be in the side of your hips, so it's gonna make your hips more or less rounded. And then finally the gluteus minimus, that it's the smallest of the three glutes, and it's gonna be even deeper than the gluteus medius. And its function primarily, it's internally rotating the hip, so it's not something that you're gonna do often. And so yeah, it's not a muscle that tend to be weak, but the other two glutes are. So the gluteus maximus especially and the gluteus medius are the glutes that tend to be weak, despite the fact that people may be training them or maybe doing exercises to train them. Now, first of all, a little bit of anatomy that I always like to do in my videos, and then I'm gonna just jump into the best and the most common exercises that you can do, and with the variations that you need to consider if you wanna really activate your glutes and you're gonna strengthen them only, and you're not gonna compensate by using other muscles. So, starting from the gluteus maximus, okay, it's the muscle that's gonna make your buttocks, pretty much the shape of your buttocks, and it's a very large muscle that's gonna originate from the lumbar fascia up here, from the ilium, from the sacrum, and so from all this side up here, and then it's gonna just run downwards, and then it's gonna like rotate, all right, and it's gonna attach into the gluteal tuberosity that you can find on the femur here on your side. So because of this very large and the disposition of your fibers, this muscle is gonna be the main extensor of the hip. So that means that it's gonna, when you are in a flex position with your hip, it's gonna actually strengthen up and it's gonna bring your hips parallel. So it's gonna already straighten your upper body with your lower body, all right? So that's the main function of this muscle, extending the hips. And then this muscle has two minor functions that are going to be abducting the hip. So abduction is bringing the leg, in this case, further away from the midline, so that's abduction, and also external rotation, that in this case is going to be bringing the anterior portion of the hip closer to, not closer, but towards the lateral portion. So it's very hard to see hip rotation other than in this image. So if you have this, for example, if you imagine this is hip in a neutral position, this is gonna be, this is gonna be a hip in external rotation. So this is external rotation, neutral rotation, internal rotation, all right? So it's easy to visualize. And those are the three, well, the main function is, again, extension of the hips, and then second minor function is abduction and external rotation. Now this muscle is also going to participate in adduction of the hip and internal rotation, depending on the exact position of the pelvis, but right now I'm not going to talk about that because it's going to just be too complicated. And so if you're going to activate this muscle, you're going to have to, of course, bring your hips in flexion, right? So that's easy. And then you want to try to extend your hips. So you want to try to bring your upper body and your lower body again in level with one another. Now the main problem of this muscle is the fact that there are two big muscle groups in the top side and in the bottom side of this gluteus maximus that are gonna try, well, not so, but that are gonna do a very similar job. So the low back muscles and the hamstrings are also gonna participate in extending the hips. So if your glutes are weak because you're not activating and you're not using them properly, these other two big muscle groups, so low back muscles and hamstrings, are gonna try to compensate for that weakness. And that's when problems start arising, because you're gonna end up having low back pain because of over fatigue, because you're using these muscles too much, more than what you should be using them, because you're trying also to do the work for the glutes, and at the end of the day, that's pain and that's bad. And hamstrings as well, a lot of times they tend to be quite tight, and they tend to try to do a lot of the work for the glutes, and again, that may result in some injuries. So what are the things that you need to be careful about when you're trying to train your glutes? Two things. First of all, posteriorly tilting the hips and keeping them posteriorly tilting as you are doing the range of motion. Second thing, having your knees flexed, because having your hips posteriorly tilting is gonna deactivate the low back muscles, so that's a very good thing. Second thing, the fact that you're gonna bend your knees is gonna deactivate the hamstrings. So by deactivating these two big muscle groups that tend to do the work for the glutes, you can actually isolate now the gluteus maximus, and you can make it do the work. And that's of course the best thing, because again, strong gluteus maximus means that the low back muscles especially can relax a lot more, and in that way you may end up not having low back pain. So now I'm gonna just have this position, so in that way you can see the two things that I talk about that are very, very important to remember to do when you're trying to work out your glutes. So first of all, having your hips not like this, but posteriorly tilting. So you can see how much different it is from here to here, right? So this is the position that you need to keep. Second thing, knee flexed. So you don't want to straighten your knee, because that is gonna activate the hamstrings, and so you're not gonna be using your glutes. So you're gonna keep your hips posteriorly tilted, your knees flexed, and now from here, just do this very quick test with me. From here, try to lift up your leg as much as you can without losing the posteriorly tilted pelvis and the flexed knee. And here, try not to rotate, so try not to compensate with other things. Try to keep the position as close as possible, and try from here to really do the work. Now, you can see that here I'm already trembling, and this is the highest I can go with the current strength of my glutes. And now you can see the range of motion. I wasn't even able to bring my leg parallel to the trunk. And now you do this test for yourself, and you're going to be seeing that if you don't cheat, so if you don't anterior tilt the hips, if you don't straighten your knee, and if you don't rotate your hips trying to compensate, 98% of the athletes, of the people that try this exercise, can't perform a full range of motion because the glutes are weak. This very big muscle that's very, very important, it's weak. So now here I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do to start activating and start using this muscle more and better. So you're going to have this position here. Alright, so just it's going to be a glute bridge. So the exercise is very common, so you may be doing this exercise, but you're not doing it correctly. So again here, remember about the two things. So posteriorly tilting the hips and keeping them posteriorly tilted, and now flexing your knees, right? So from here again, you try to really feel your glutes and feel that they're activating, they're contracting, and that you're lifting up your pelvis with your glutes, right, and not with other muscles. And from here, really try to, keeping your hips posteriorly tilted, try to lift up as much as you can. Now this is the maximum I can do. And then down. So again here, and then down. Again. Here you can see I'm actually in the air, but I can't get past this point because if I don't have enough strength in my glutes to actually reach this. Here you can see that I'm using the low back muscles, I'm using a little bit more the hamstrings, but I'm not using it, I'm not doing it with the glutes. So this very simple exercise, you can start doing reps, 10 to 15 reps, 3 sets, and trying really to focus on keeping your hips posteriorly tilted, keeping your knees flexed, and really trying to feel the glutes that are doing the work. In this way, you're going to improve the muscle-mind connection. You're going to be able to activate the glutes more, and most importantly, you're going to be strengthening them a lot more, because now that you're taking away low back muscles and hamstrings, you're doing 100%, well, 95% of the movement, you're doing it with the glutes. So you're strengthening them a lot more. And now there are of course other variations, for example the hip bridge, or like the hip thrust, and if you want you can do that, it's perfectly fine, but remember always two things: posteriorly tilting the hips and keeping them that way, and flexing the knees. So that is everything for the gluteus maximus. Now let's go down into the second muscle, that is the gluteus medius. And in this case, this muscle is going to be responsible for the rounding of the hips, because it's right here. And anatomically, this muscle is going to be a lot smaller than the gluteus maximus. It's going to originate from the lateral portion of the ilium up here, and then it's going to just run pretty much like this, alright? So it's going to just run downwards, and it's going to touch once again into the lateral portion of the femur, in the gluteal tuberosity, a little higher than the gluteal tuberosity. And so as I said before, this muscle, the main function is going to be abduction. Now it's not only abduction, of course, because here if you are standing, right, and you don't, for example, you're standing on one leg like this, right, and you want to keep on being in balance, you can see that your hips, so your gluteus medius right here, must be working, because otherwise your hips are going to fall, right? So if you're going to keep your hips in place, you need to activate this muscle. And that's why you can also activate this muscle by just, for example, here, one leg, right, like this, and you're dropping your hips, so you're letting them to fall, and then you're just activating the muscle and you're bringing them again in line with your body. Then again you let them drop, and then you bring them up again. So depending on which portion of your body is fixed to the ground, in the hips or the leg, you can activate this muscle just by doing this other movement. So how to strengthen this muscle. That is very, very important for lateral stability of the hips. So if you're someone that jumps, runs, does anything, and that is many times is gonna have himself in this one leg position, so you need to have your whole balance and your whole weight on one leg. You have to have very strong glutes right here, because if your hips are not stable and you're not stable right here, you're gonna end up using other muscles and your performance is gonna lower. So you're not gonna be able to jump, to run, to sprint as well as you can if you have this muscle weak. So how can you train it? So which exercises you need to do? Again, it's simple. You just need to do abduction. But very, very important here, you need to remember that you need to do abduction, all right? But not flexing the hips. So, because many people, now here if you look at the side, they're gonna start abducting well, but then at a certain point, because they wanna keep on going, they're gonna do this. So their leg is gonna go forward or it's gonna rotate, so rotating or flexing the hips. And at the end of the day, by doing this, by rotating or flexing the hips, you're gonna end up using other muscles and you're not gonna be using your gluteus medius anymore. So the only thing you need to remember when you're training this muscle is to keep your hips posteriorly tilted, so in neutral, and when you're abducting, bringing your leg, always having your legs at the same level. So not having your leg in front, having your leg at the same level of the other one, right? And again, here remember, not flexing the hips and not rotating. So for example, doing this is bad because here I'm just rotating my hip. Remember, the real range of motion of abduction of the hip is just 45 degrees. So if you're standing and you're trying to abduct your hip, the real movement is just up to here. So if you go any further, you're already compensating. You're rotating up here, you're rotating your trunk, you're rotating the leg. So it's useless. Remember, you're gonna do the movements correctly, clean, for the range of motion, for the real range of motion. So not just a very wide range of motion, but at the end of the day, you're using a bunch of other muscles that you don't want to train. And now my favorite exercise to train the gluteus medius and to really feel the burn is with an elastic band. And in this case, you're gonna place your elastic band beneath your feet like this. So depending on your level, you're gonna have an elastic band is gonna be more or less elastic, right? You're bringing it up like this. And now you can see that if I try from here to do a lateral step, right, like this, the elastic band is gonna try to bring my leg closer to the other one, see? So I try to do a lateral step and the elastic band is opposing this movement. And you just need to do lateral steps. So again, remember, not flexing with the hips, not rotating the leg. You just want to do lateral step to the right and one lateral step to the left. Then 2 steps towards the right, 2 steps towards the left. Then 3 steps towards the right, and so on. So you're gonna keep on improving the number of steps you're doing. So 3, then 4, 5, until 10 or until 12 or 15 or how many you can do, it doesn't matter. And you're gonna really feel the burn if you're doing it correctly. So you're keeping your hips neutral, you're not rotating, you're just doing these small movements by activating the muscle correctly. You're gonna really feel a burn up here, and that means that you're using the muscle correctly. And now if you don't have an elastic band, I just recommend doing this exercise. It's a variation. In this case, it's gonna be a lateral lunge, pretty much. So you're here, like this. So remember, again here, hips neutral or extended. The leg that you wanna work out is not gonna be in the front, but it's gonna be on the back. And you wanna like rotate as you are falling into the opposite side of your leg.
And then from here, you're just, remember, 45 degrees. So you don't want to do this, because here you're using a lot of other muscles that are not important here. So you just want to do it 45 degrees, doing the movement slowly, control, feeling the muscle working, holding in the top position, and then down. Remember, not rotating. So look at my foot here, not rotating the hips, not rotating your trunk, really trying to keep your leg as stiff as possible as you go up and down. And from here, you just do this. All right. And then again, you can do 15, 20 reps, then you change side and you train the other side. So this is another very nice variation that you can do if you don't have the elastic band. And boom, that's it. So in this way, you are once again training this muscle that tend to be weak. You're strengthening it, you're improving your posture, and you are preventing any possible injuries that may happen in the long term and in the future. And finally, the gluteus minimus, that's going to be a main internal rotator of the hip. You can try to activate it and to strengthen it by just placing yourself in this position. So this is pretty much almost a stretch for the leg in the front, but in this case you're going to be training the leg in the back. So from here you're just trying to, here I'm going to just rotate so you can see it from the side. So from here you're trying to bring this leg and rotating it anteriorly against gravity. So from here, just lifting up your foot and down, lifting up your foot and down. So here again, trying to keep your hips fixed, not compensating as much as you can. This is a pretty hard movement to do. So from here, so lifting up your foot pretty much from the ground and then down, lifting up and then down. And again, 10 to 15 reps, then you change side, 2 or 3 sets total. And in that way you can also train this very small muscle, this internal rotator. But as I said before, it's not that important really training it, because this muscle really is not as important as the other two. So yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and see ya. Bye bye.